of including a tourism aspect to it to kind of indicate to the public of what their goal and purpose is in addition to just labeling something as historic. But otherwise, as I said, I think the ordinance itself is good. It does lay out all the authority that they have. I think probably what I need to do is provide some additional guidance and training to the individuals who are on this board, just to remind them of what authority they have, what they need to do, and so on. So I think part of this is not just updating the ordinance, but just sitting down with those folks just to go over what they can and can't do.
Have you had any meetings?
I'm sorry?
Have you had any meetings?
No.
I don't think we've had any recent meetings. I don't think so. I'm sorry?
Yeah, no recent meetings.
Yeah, no, and I think so. I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
There haven't been any recent meetings, and I think part of the issue is getting them together or having members have come off the board.
Items for the agenda, because right now it's kind of just a voluntary type.
Right. So I think part of the problem is just not. I think if they get some guidance and things that they need to do, maybe they'll kind of reinvigorate this board and get them back together and start meeting again.
Well, it sounds like to me you're not organized.
I think it's like some of our other boards is just, it's been around and there hasn't been a lot of focus or attention paid to it. So I think, again, it's just once we revamp this and give more of a purpose and sit down with them and talk with them, the hope is that they'll start meeting again. And first things first is what they need to do under their authority is they just need to go undertake an inventory of all potential historical sites in this county and get that inventory, and then they can start working from there of what we need to do.
Well, I'll refrain the rest of my questions until you do that.
I'm sorry?
I will refrain the rest of my questions until you do that, because if you're not organized, I don't know what kind of program you have standing out there, and that's what we need to know.
Right. Yeah, I think first step will be bringing an updated ordinance to you at the next work session, just
Okay.
with the ideas that we had. Again, updates for 160D. And then if you're happy with that, moving forward with, I don't know if there's any slots that need to be filled, but then just sitting down with our current members and filling, if there's any openings, getting those filled and sitting down with them and start moving forward from there.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'm sorry.
I would just add that currently the board has 5 members, and the board currently has 5 standing members and 2 alternates. We are currently short one position, the alternate, that we'll be able to fill up. Matthew Willis resigned recently to focus on some other areas. So, but otherwise, there are enough members, and a lot of the names currently: Brian Avery, Desi Campbell, Melanie Collins, Sion Harrington, and Donna Johnson serve on that committee now. So, some of the very people that brought this idea of encouraging the tourism are already serving on this board. So I think that bodes well for the future as related to as we give them this charge of looking at additional properties for historic tourism that either we would want to own or help the nonprofit that currently owns it. Along the way, I think these folks are definitely some of the right people to have on that commission.
I agree, because I know Desi Campbell, that's all he lived for, is looking up history here in Harnett County, and all types of history.
Right.
So
I did.
it's a valuable
I'm sorry.
resource for you.
I did want to ask just for info on one item. So under terms, the way it's always been is they serve 3-year terms. Statute allows up to 4. I don't know if you want to leave it at 3, shorten it to 2, go up to 4. Looking at guidance on if you want to revamp the terms of any members.
And those terms are staggered so that there's consistency.
Correct. It was when it was set up, they had staggered terms, and it should be working that way right now. So if you want to leave it alone, that's fine. But I just want to let you know that you can serve up to 4. Or if you want to shorten it to refresh the board, that's up to you.
Well, just my opinion, I think it would be good to go to 4 if we're going to try to develop some consistency there, so that we don't have so much turnover quite as quickly.
Sure.
Those.
And I'll if that's general consensus, I'll happy to move it up to 4 years.
Everybody fine with moving it to 4 years
What
for the
about-
terms?
Adding in there like
That's 3 meetings.
a back, like a reporting back to us, anything a couple of times a year maybe or something?
And that's something we discussed with a lot of these other committees as well, about getting reports either quarterly. I think that would be a great idea, and even the other committees that we have as well, getting them on some similar schedule to come in and report.
And a lot of our bylaws actually do have those requirement. We just have not been sticklers on getting them up here so we can, in general, as we talk about boards and committees, of doing more reports as required. We've got requirements in the bylaws,
Well, let's
and this one included.
Well, let's start being sticklers on that so we don't have to keep revamping these committees.
Yes, sir.
The pleasure of the board to go ahead and change that to 4-year terms. Okay, you got consensus to go ahead and do that, sir?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, up next, discuss Harnett County Board of Commissioners meeting survey. Ms. Desiree Patrick, good morning.
Good morning. Before I start, I do want to apologize to our viewers for the technical difficulties that we just experienced. So we are back up and running, in this meeting for October 4th is split into 2 videos. So, all right. So on September 15th, the Board of Commissioners asked staff to perform a survey to gain feedback from our community regarding if they were interested in our move in one meeting moving to an evening meeting. After that, staff discussed what the survey would look like. On September 19th, staff launched a survey, and we created a press release. We sent it out to our local media only. We also published it on our website. We posted it throughout the website on various areas. And we published on our social media platforms, which include Facebook, Instagram, X, Nextdoor, and LinkedIn. And then on September 26th, our October newsletters were released. So we included the survey link in our newsletters that went to our community. As of right now, the survey is still open. It actually closes on October 27th, which is Monday. As of today, this morning at 8:12 a.m., I pulled the results, and we have 137 responses for people who have participated in the survey. This is broken down into 76 individuals voting for yes to move one of the meetings to an evening meeting, and 61 individuals voting no to not move the meetings. And this is the percentage. So we broke that down to gain feedback regarding which meetings the public would be interested in moving. So we had the first work session meeting, our regular meeting, which is the first Monday of the month, and then the second work session meeting. As of right now, the public would prefer for the regular meeting to be moved, which is 54 individuals voted for that. Regarding the first work session meeting, 8 individuals voted for that to be moved. In our second work session meeting, it was 14. So I did want to pull up some information regarding some other meetings, since most of the individuals who took the survey voted for the regular meeting, which is the first Monday of the month. As of right now, our Harnett County Planning Board meeting, they meet on the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. So if we do decide to move that meeting, we will coincide with them. Also, Harnett County Schools has an evening meeting as well on the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. So we will again be 3 meetings in one night regarding all of those taking place. I did allow individuals to make comments for the survey, so we had a lot of feedback. Once the survey actually closes on Monday, I can email that information to you guys so that you can see some of the feedback that was provided. I will just go over a few that were repetitive that I seen. Some people mentioned that if we changed the meeting to an evening meeting, they didn't believe that many citizens would come out. Some people stated that they would prefer one during the business hours and one during the evening. Again, an evening meeting wouldn't increase attendance. That was very popular, and meetings are not attended regularly by citizens. So that was a lot of the responses that we received. But again, when I do close the survey on Monday, I'll send you all of those responses so that you guys could see them. So, did you guys have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions, but I don't like sitting up here representing the people, because I don't represent myself. I do represent citizens, and not knowing what I'm voting on. I think that we need, however it's done, we still need to have thorough discussions on which direction we should go.
What way? What do you mean?
What I'm saying is that eliminate one of the meetings. I don't care one way or the other. I just want enough space and enough meetings for us to discuss.
Man, we're not eliminating a meeting. What we're doing is taking one of our morning meetings and switching it to an evening. You're still going to have the same amount of meetings, the same amount of work sessions, and the same amount of regular meetings. It's just what day and time of the week is what we're changing.
Is that true?
Yeah, so right now we have 3 morning meetings, which is our work session, our first meeting of the month, which is usually the first Monday of the month, and then our second work session meeting. All of those are at 9:00 a.m. And then the third Monday of the month at 6 p.m. we have our evening meeting. So we're trying to gauge feedback regarding if you all decide, and once we review all of the feedback from the survey, would we be interested in moving one of the meetings that we currently, out of the 3 have in the morning, to an evening meeting?
So it'll be 2 in the
Well,
morning.
that's okay with me, just as long as we discuss, have the opportunity to discuss the issues that we should be voting on. That's all. I'm very particular about that. I'm not sitting up here voting for something that I don't know anything about.
Yeah, we're only trying to change a morning
Okay,
meeting
I
to
got
an
you.
evening.
I got you. It wasn't explained to me. I didn't understand it.
Okay, I apologize.
You did a great job. I just didn't understand it that way.
Okay. As stated before, if we do decide to move the most popular meeting, which is the regular meeting, we will have a conflict with the other 2 meetings, our planning board and the board of the school board. So I don't know how we would want to handle that, but I'll let you guys decide about that.
But I think you need to put on your thinking cap too. Simply because those guys sitting over there, they do a great job in providing economic development in this county. And we need to know what they're doing before we vote on it. And in which direction they're going. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, yes, ma'am. So-
Because they also attend our meetings, so
Yep.
they can't be at 2 places at one time.
Exactly.
So would a viable alternative possibly be to take one of the work sessions then and move that one to an evening? Or, I mean, because I know that we have, right now we're having a work session and we've got just a few members to actually sit here and listen to what's going on. Maybe we could get some more involvement if we moved a work session and then the public can familiarize themselves kind of with what's going on, as we're putting it out. Because I know that we get a lot of questions on kind of when was that put out? And it's like, well, we discuss it during a work session. And a lot of people can't make a 9 a.m., in order to kind of listen to the issues that are being going on. So possible, maybe. We'll put it out there as a field.
And that was actually some of the comments that I seen on the survey. Some people mentioned about potentially having a work session before a regular meeting. That was an option on there. Again, a lot of people are at work during the day, so it's hard for people to come in person and to be here when we are having our meetings. But then again, as staff, if we have evening meetings, then we're here longer as well too, so.
Look at him looking. All right. Any other questions or comments from Ms. Patrick? No? Thank you very
Awesome.
much for your update. I appreciate that. Now another one, financial quarterly update. Ms. Kimberly Honeycutt. Good morning, ma'am.
so afraid I'm going to just destroy that. All right, so the moment you've been waiting for, I'm going to give you my quarterly update. Typically, I do not give a final update on the June. I do actually skip that quarter because, as you know, at the end of the fiscal year, we actually hold that year open for a few months while we continue to make sure all of our entries are done, all the revenues accounted for. But I do give you a brief statement in this first quarter presentation. You will notice I put out your tables. I was not able to get this presentation on the overhead. Still kind of playing around with the fonts and the colors to make it a lot easier to see from this perspective, but I will be working on that. So what you have in front of you, you'll notice that it is significantly smaller as requested by I guess the chairman. And so what I've included in this brief 3-page, I'm going to present the general fund, enterprise fund, and the solid waste. That's our general fund, which is based on our taxes, income, property taxes, and then the 2 major enterprise funds. After this presentation, what I'm doing today will be online for preview under our government transparency section. But in addition to that, the full report will also be there. So what has changed is what you see is just a very, very condensed version of what is presented in that full report that's online. We have taken the functions and just condensed them in the general fund. You will not see a difference between the enterprise funds for Harnett Regional or solid waste because they pretty much stayed the same. The major difference is in the general fund. So instead of listing out all of the different departments and or programs within, for example, health and DSS were the main ones, we condensed those up under that. So again, you'll have general government, which is, finance, legal, human resources. Then you have your divisions of public safety, health and human services, cultural, education, and debt. So, and then another thing I wanted to point out or show you is what I'm going to try to do is from my talking points, I've tried to kind of highlight the rows that I'll be talking about, make it a lot easier for you to be able to see where I'm coming from. Now, the presentation that I gave you where I've made my notes, that's about 3 pages, so I will not read through all of that, but I'll just want to cover the highlights. And so hopefully, as we move through this, if you like what I've done, if you want to make some recommendations for changes, to be able to better clarify some of that information, just please let me know. So overall, the first part I'll be talking about will just be address some of the highlights of fiscal year 25. So when we ended our year, the ad valorem tax collections actually exceeded their budget by $2.9 million and exceeded the collections for the prior fiscal year by 7%, which indicate continued growth in the county. And then our sales tax exceeded our projections by 8%, and we're also ahead of 24 by 7%. Again, even though we are hearing reports of sales tax collections kind of wane a little bit across the state, ours continues to stay relatively strong. So, and that's something that we've always experienced in Harnett County. So even though we do not have the large stores that most people have, we are taking advantage of the online shopping. And then because of the way the sales tax is distributed back, we get the benefit of those big stores in other areas. But the one thing that I did want to point out is that as you are reading through my notes, that the expenditures for the fiscal year increased $18.8 million over the prior year. And the drivers for this were due to general government, and as well as transportation. So when we look at the different areas, transportation went up 57%. And this was as a result, and that's part of the HARTS transportation program that Barry had talked to you about earlier. So that was represented purchase of capital. The county has a certain percentage that they put in to purchase those buses and vans that HARTS uses, then we get tax dollars back. And so we only purchase those every so often. So in that prior fiscal year, that was a large investment of capital access for that. So that's what drove that. And then in education, it went up due to increased in current expense, and as well as we had to address the low wealth and hold the schools harmless. So that is where that went up. Moving on to Harnett Regional, again, their revenues were ahead of the prior fiscal year, but this was basically an accounting treatment of how we account for their fixed assets, their water lines and acquisitions. So we have to run that through the revenue. So that was not actually cash that came into Harnett Regional. It's just the value of those assets that we place. And again, that's an accounting entry that we have to do at year end. Their expenditures went up 22% because of the usage. They're adding more customers, the cost to treat the water, and then the waste that goes back out. For solid waste, their revenues were up 21%. Again, that is due to the activity that they focus on each day. So now moving to the current fiscal year, and I'll try to be brief, I promise. This is only interesting to me, I guess. So for the general fund, revenues reported through, I knew you would laugh at that. Reported through September of 2025 totaled $17.6 million, which is a slight decrease from the same period last year of $18.6. Some of the areas that we were looking at, some of it is due to the grant revenue. If you'll notice, particularly with ARPA grants, COVID money, a lot of that is starting to wane down. But as that grant revenue diminishes, so do a lot of the expenditures associated with it. So it's a incremental decrease. The one thing that I did want to talk about was that one of the reasons some of our revenue has fallen is a drop in the interest rate. So as we've continued to use and dip into our fund balance, and you'll see that for the prior year right now, and this is an unaudited figure, our expenditures did exceed our revenues by $4 million. So that is less available cash that I have to put into interest-bearing accounts. And we have been able to take advantage of that robust interest rate environment. But right now, that's where some of the decreases in some of the service charges that you're seeing coming in. But for total, and just let me read this because I worked hard on the wording. Expenditures for the first quarter totaled $48.367 million, an increase over the same quarter last year of 44%. The two largest drivers of this increase represent the transfer of funds from the general fund to the debt service fund in the amount of $11 million and the increase in expense funding for education. The current year budget is based upon the appropriation of reserves as detailed in the Harnett County Fiscal Year 2026 Budget Ordinance, Section 16. General Statute 159-36 directs units of local government to levy taxes or allocate revenue in an amount sufficient to meet debt during the budget year. Debt activity is accounted for in a separate fund, and the general fund transfers an appropriation each year to ensure compliance with the repayment of the debt. So I wanted to read that to you, so hopefully I don't lose you in my translation of it. So if you look under the general government, you will see that the actual expenditures are $15.3 million from $4 million of the prior year. That is where we account for our transfers. So throughout the year, we have debt payments that are due in that debt fund, and the county transfers that $11 million. I typically will transfer those funds throughout the year to meet those debt payments. But because we did use our fund balance, because we are having some federal concerns and issues and shutdowns, because I'm seeing my interest income wane down, I went ahead and transferred that money to that debt fund so that when those debt payments come due for our school debt and our general I think our courthouse and all of that, not courthouse, but this building as well, that money will be there to make those debt payments. So it's not anything more than I've been doing, it's just the timing of what I did. So as we continue to go into that year, we will know now that we have that money set aside to make those debt payments when they're due. So just kind of wanted to clarify that for you as you're taking a look at that. And then for education, it's up because we have started that additional teacher supplement, and then we also included the low wealth replacement of funds. So I hope that's, because when you first look at it, it's really, okay, yes, we used, as of today's date, we used 30 million more than we got in, but that is why. We're making sure that we have that money for the debt service. And then Hornet Regional, again, pretty much standard. They are showing a decrease, but very little. They continue to remain strong. And when I go back and look each year that I do this presentation, the first 3 months of our fiscal year, July through September, is always right around the same amount, whether it's slightly ahead or slightly behind. And that is just a timing issue in itself. Sometimes, when we're trying to get new grants in and record those, but the expense you'll see always goes up just incrementally because of the COLAs and then the increase in benefits such as the retirement and health insurance benefits costs that we have. But I will continue to monitor this. Brent and I talk frequently about, how our revenue's coming in, so that if we have to take measures to curb the cost or, make sure that we are spending the money because, we have our salaries, we have dedicated things that we have to pay for, so that we are addressing those in a smart manner. But right now, for this first quarter, things are going along. I have no concerns whatsoever. So, any questions?
That's what we wanted you to say from the beginning.
Well, okay. In my
Save the
defense,
punchline for the end.
okay, but my job is to inform you. So,
Thank you so much, Ms. Kimberly.
and I don't need a time, but in my defense, you didn't give me a stopwatch. So,
Well, I'm asking is, how's our fund balance? So far, nothing has affected our fund balance. That's what you're saying?
ma'am?
So far, nothing has affected our fund balance. We're still staying on top of everything.
Well, right now, I do not have a draft from the auditor for the fiscal year ending '25. But the column that shows the 25 right now, all things being considered, we're going to use about $4 million of our fund balance. So coming into that, and also, like I stated, there's a lot of things going on. We have separate funds set aside, so, for our debt, but our debt is the most, to me, that's one of the most important ones that we have, is that, when we go out, we issue debt, it's issued based on our ability to repay, but it's also based on your responsibility as the board to raise those taxes to cover that debt. So, that way, we know that is made, because that is a promise, that we made when we borrowed that money. But right now, everything is, staying pretty well even.
But that's a good report, but I'm asking, I guess I'm asking on the future, what's going to happen in the future, because if this shutdown continues, that's going to affect, and it's going to affect us as well. It's going to affect our fund balance. And that's something I was saying all the time, that fund balance is very important, because you don't know what's going to happen that you're going to have to pull from the fund balance for.
Yes, ma'am. So as we had talked, I mentioned earlier, some of the programs that we have that are federally funded, some of them are 100% funded, some of them are, there may be a match to it. So that's where we would come to you as the board, because you would make the decision, do we want to use fund balance to keep this program going? Or we cut that program because we do not have that revenue coming in. That's a decision for you as the board. But that is where, over the years we have talked about, we have a minimum fund balance percentage of 15%. with our target being 20. You know, we had discussed in prior years about raising that amount up. So what that does is that gives you that flexibility so that when things comes up, and it's not just opportunities that we talked about for economic development. You know, if something were to happen, you know, like a hurricane would come through, it's also, you know, if there's an immediate need for the school. So, you know, we were able, when we lost the low wealth funding, at least we were able to, you know, make them whole and keep that going. But it's also on the other side, you know, if the federal government shuts down and we, you know, like Veterans Treatment Court, we talked about that, you know, that's a worthwhile, but you have to make that decision. Do you want to use those local fund or your local funds? And when you have that working cushion, that gives you more flexibility because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we budget on a fiscal year, but we're always, you know, operating in our minds, you know, long term. So how do we keep this going? So, you know, because the citizens, you know, we have a duty to them. That was the 500-word essay in response to your question, but I hope that made sense.
I think you did a great job in answering the question. All I want to know is that time comes, you know, with these cuts, you know, these federal cuts, you'll come to us
Yes,
and
ma'am.
tell us that we're going to have to take this from the fund balance or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's a very important question, and that has to be answered in the right way. Because Harnett County is growing every single day. And
Well-
we have more expenses.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we all work together very well to stay, you know, we talk about it quite a bit. You know, we keep those, department heads do a great job of keeping Brent informed, especially the ones who receive a lot of grant funding, and they're already looking ahead to see, you know, what can they do to cut, readjust, how they can, how we can weather this with as little impact on the citizens as possible, so.
Thank you, Kimberly. You
Yes,
did
ma'am.
a good job. I remember those times.
Chairman, if I could kind of sum up one thing that was mentioned, you talked about the fund balance. When we did fiscal year 25 budget, we had a budget that had a usage of about 11 million of fund balance. Based on the reporting that Kimberly did today, what we actually ended up using a fund balance was a little over 4 million. So as this year went on, some expenditures did not occur, and so we ended up not using as much fund balance as we originally predicted, which is how we create the budget, and as the year goes, that's not always needed, and so we ended up with a usage of fund balance, but not as great as was originally predicted for the fiscal year 25 budget. And so we continue to keep in monitoring that so that if we need to make changes during the year, we can do so.
Very good.
What is the fund balance now? We have a total?
And she hasn't run those numbers as far as what our current fund balance is, but is that when we get to, it'll be easier when we get to the end of the second quarter, those kind of numbers can be done because she'll close out the year and look at where we're at currently. So we should have an idea of where our fund balance is running at the end of the second quarter.
Thank you.
Anything further? No questions, comments? All right, good deal. We'll move on and discuss an authorized signature for an easement between Duke Energy Progress and Central Harnett High School. Mr. Chris Appel, good morning again.
Yes, so we were contacted by Duke Energy. They are requesting an easement from the county to install a power pole, essentially to service a home. It would go across from the property of Harnett Central High School and go across the street of Harnett Central Road over to a home on the other side of the street. They contacted us because that property, the Harnett Central High School property, is owned by the county. I contacted Jason Duke, the attorney for Harnett County Schools, brought it up with their board, and they don't have any issue with issuing this easement to Duke Energy. So unless there's any questions, I would ask for a vote today to go ahead and execute this easement.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second to approve an easement between the county and Duke Energy Progress. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hey, County Manager's Report, Mr. Trapp.
Thank you, Chairman. The first item I have is listed on your agenda. I ask that the resolution requesting adding state secondary road system Sawyer Mill Road be added to the consent agenda. No objection.
Pleasure of the board. We'll go ahead and add that to the consent agenda for approval next week.
Okay. Next item I have is remind folks that Trash Bash continues in October, and if you have a group of folks that would like to volunteer, please contact Soil and Water to get signed up. You should have received an invitation, I believe it went today, for November 13th for our economic development update. Please check your email. It's going to be provided, our economic development department is going to provide an update on all activities related to economic development in our county. It's from 8 to 10 on November 13th, and it's being held at Campbell University. Then the other item I have is I put an information sheet at your desk related to, that is put out by North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, which really outlines, looks like this, it really outlines all of what we're seeing for growth within our county. It outlines some basic facts about what's going on with our population. Probably the most glaring is that since 2015, 10 years, we've seen a 17.7% increase in our population. So a lot of other good information there. So if you're ever talking with folks and are wanting to know about, put some information about an opioid crisis and other services that were provided, and on our property tax information and where we rank compared to other counties in some of those areas. So good information to have handy. And that's all I have, Chairman.
Outstanding. I understand we have a need for closed session.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I move the board go into closed session for the following purposes. Number one, to discuss certain economic development matter, and number two, consultation with and instructions to the county staff concerning the position to be taken by the county in negotiating the proposed contract for the acquisition of real property. Motions made pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A, 4 and 5.
Second.
Motion and second to move into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll move into closed session.
Session, I'll call the meeting back to order.
Move this. Yeah.
Motion and a second to adjourn, we adjourn.